everyone. Here I am again with Lynda Faye Schmidt. I have been in communication collaboration with Lynda now for a long time, actually, quite some time, although time's not really what I follow, the idea of linear time. It's really that connection with what is happening and the cycle. So it's almost like we are meeting again today because there's a reason to it. There's a meaning to it. Thank you so much, Lynda, for being here today and sharing this moment. Not in time, in life, really. So with that,
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
thank you. So, this is another freedom to feel conversation. And the whole idea behind it, when it came to me, it was to be able to understand intellectually and hopefully realize the concept of freedom, and also what is freedom in relation to emotions and feelings. How are they connected? Can we be free when it comes to emotions and feelings, especially the challenging ones? So that's the main proposal or idea for these conversations. But of course, we're going to be expanding probably into many other topics, including her books. So we'll introduce Lynda briefly. She's an author who writes from the heart. I love that. When I read this in her bio, it just caught my attention immediately. That says it all to me. And so, but she's the author of The Healing, The Holding and the Healing Companion Journal. That's the latest book that will be released October 23rd. So I guess my two initial questions for you, Lynda, is who you are today in your own words. I would love to hear that. I usually ask this question to all my guests. And also, what is the main purpose and intention of your work for writing these books?
Well, Valeria, as you were saying in the introduction there, this isn't our first time engaging in a meaningful conversation about healing and wellness and how that manifests in the world and what our part in it is and how everything's connected. And even though I do absolutely believe that as human beings, we are given multiple opportunities to grow and transform, I do think that we have a core self, an authentic personality, if you want to call it,
Yeah.
that we're born as. And it's important for us to stay true to that, to really manifest truthfully what we're here to bring. And so, even like you said, it's not always fun, it's not always easy, it's not always joyful, but there's still meaning there to be had. And in fact, maybe even more so because a lot of people are uncomfortable talking about those hard things, and yet that's where you need the support, that's where you
Right.
need the tools.
Right.
So I do think that since we spoke last, how I described myself then as
Yeah.
open and honest, joyful, optimistic, compassionate, empathetic, all those things are true, and I think will always be true. And in some instances, those things can seem positive, but in some, they can also be challenging, because when you're really optimistic, maybe you get disappointed, or you have this idea of being able to trust people, but some people aren't trustworthy,
Right.
and those sorts of things. So even though they might sound like, oh, I'm just labeling positive things, those really are who I am at my core self, and they sometimes treat me well and sometimes not so much.
Yeah.
I just accept it all as part of who I am. And
Mm.
I would say similarly with the second part of your question as to the purpose, that also changes over the course of your lifetime and what you're involved in and who you're engaged with.
Right.
And when I was younger with 3 children, my purpose was different than now. All my children are grown.
Yeah.
And I used to be a teacher. And so I had a purpose around that. And now I'm a writer. But I would say the chord that brings everything together is twofold. And one is loving and one is creating.
Mm.
And I actually think that is everyone's purpose, but how that manifests is different.
Yeah.
So for me, how I love is going to be different, and how I give and receive love is going to be different. But I think it's absolutely essential to our experience of this world to experience love.
Yes.
And we're creative beings, and you can be creative with words and writing. You can be creative making food. You can be creative in your conversation, in your gardening, in anything. An engineer is creative. They're making a new way of technology that wasn't there before, you know? So
Right.
our minds are geared to create, and what we create becomes, and it's a big responsibility then. We have to really think about, what are we doing? What is our purpose? And is that in alignment with who we want to
Mm.
be?
Wow. I love that. I mean, I have to say the word love again. And then a lot of times I ask what love is, and this might be a great moment to talk about that second main question. That it's two questions. What is freedom, and what is freedom in relation to emotions and feelings, and how do we manage to hold this feeling or this emotion of love all the time? Is that, you just mentioned, it's not easy all the time, but can we still stay present in moments of difficulties and challenging situations? Can we still remember love? Is that something that you have experienced these days in your life, or it's a practice per se?
I would say that's both are correct, Valeria. It's something I have experienced and continue and likely always will. And sometimes it's easier than others. We were talking about this with the
Yeah.
technology
Yeah.
beforehand.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When life, right? When life is going really well and things are all lining up, it's so much easier to be zen and peaceful with your life.
Yeah.
When there's stress and unforeseen difficulties and challenges, that's when your true colors show, I want to
Right.
say.
Right.
And that's where the practice comes in. The more you spend the time reflecting and considering how it is you want to be and
Mm,
practicing that,
mm,
those two
mm,
have to go together. You can't just think about it all the time.
mm.
And then the better you get at it. And so you have your different techniques that help you stay in your moment. Maybe it's deep breathing, maybe it's a mantra, maybe it's a visualization of something. But you use your techniques to,
Mm.
that's what gives you your freedom. And I would say your ultimate freedom is around accepting all of yourself, including your feelings. So a
Yeah.
lot of us try to shut them down when they come up, especially if we're not comfortable with them because they're hard,
Right.
difficult feelings, sadness, grief, and we just want to push it away and we think that'll make it easier. But what we do when we do that is we're not honoring our process of life. This grief is real and it needs to be felt.
Right.
You can do that in a way that's healthy or unhealthy, though. So then that's where the practice comes in. Okay, I'm feeling so much sadness. Do I just pretend it's not there and move on with my life? Or do I embrace it by having a big cry?
Mm.
Cry and cry till I'm done. And
Yeah.
then I just release it. And now I'm done. And it doesn't have to sit with me hanging around whispering in the
Right.
background all the
Right.
time.
Right.
You know? I think when you ignore those whispers, Valeria,
Mm.
they
Yeah.
just get louder. And the loudest level of vibration is when you start to develop physical illnesses in your body because you're not listening
Mm.
and it's trying to
Yeah.
get your attention.
Yeah.
Feel me. This is
Yeah.
what you need,
Yeah. Right.
right? So there's freedom in knowing that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So commitment to the practice of staying present, which you just beautifully said that, elaborated on the tools. So having those tools in the moments that we need, but in order to have them, we need to kind of practice the engagement with these tools. We cannot just all of a sudden become calm in the middle of a storm if we have not been practicing that. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So it is a commitment to healing, a commitment to love, to being this spiritual, not even spiritual being. These days, what comes to me is that we are spirit, really, having this experience here. We are spirit beings, not spiritual beings, but spirit beings. I don't know. That's just kind of resonating with me much more these days.
Yeah.
Right? Spirit
Mhm.
beings, not spiritual. So that to me, it's almost grounds me a lot more into this reality in a more expansive way where I can see deeper and kind of engage with people around me and my environment in a much more harmonious way. It's easier to be peaceful in a way. But the second part to that, which I love what you said about acceptance. And what comes to me is trust. I used to think about acceptance when I was healing from so much trauma before. So that was like the my anchor, accepting everything as it happened, accepting where I was today, having these horrible experiences emotionally because of what happened. But now evolved into trust. I trust life. I trust God. I trust the universe. Whatever is here that I call spirit, or perhaps I call divine intelligence. I trust that. That kind of gives me a sense of peace.
I say I trust the process of life many times a day
Yeah.
because I believe there is something at work bigger than us.
Yeah.
And I also know from my teaching background that you don't just arrive at the end. There's all these steps in between. And some of them are difficult and you fall and you have to dust yourself off and get back up. But you can't be where you aren't. It's a process. We want to rush it.
Right.
We want to arrive. We want to be there. And we also want to separate it out and be like, no, it's this, it's that. It's your body. No, you got to look after your spirit. And
Yeah.
wait a second, emotions are queen. And it's like, guys, we need all of it. We need all of ourselves and all of each other. We have to stop judging ourselves and other people as this one is good and this one is bad, and realizing we all have good and bad. How do we manifest our goodness?
Right.
How do we manifest other people's and support them?
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on or giving energy to that negative stuff. It's there,
Right.
but it doesn't have to be the boss.
Exactly. That's the key. That's another beautiful insight, right? That there's no destination. This is a journey. So everything is possible. And it's the constant change of everything, of emotions, of thoughts. It's not who we are anyway. When I think about everything that changed, that's not who we are. But I know it's not an easy practice to engage with, because, being that which doesn't change, which I call the spirit, it's not always obvious, right? Although it is obvious. And I mean,
Depends where you are.
yeah. Oh,
Because
yeah.
when
Right.
when people don't know, you can talk to them all day and they just can't get it. And
Yeah.
I was there
Yeah.
at one time. I'm sure we all are, and we
Yeah.
come to it at our different times. But
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes. So true. Yeah. Because you cannot, sometimes we hear, but we don't listen. We can't, not yet, right? Listen to what is
we're
being
not
said.
ready.
No.
And we're seeking something which is at odds with what it even is. You can't seek
Mm,
enlightenment or
mm,
awareness because it's something you have. It
mm,
comes.
mm.
So instead, it's about opening to it. It's about being open, and that starts again with that self-awareness and feeling okay in who you are and where you're at.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you're in that next step. It's magical
Mm,
when you trust how your life gets into
mm.
a flow. And now things that you were struggling with are they're just there, you know?
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love that too. So it's not, we don't seek awareness. It's already there. We don't seek the spirit or the divine because it's not out there. It's here, right?
You might have an intention of like, I would like this in my life, but then you don't necessarily know which ways it's going to go. You might have some ideas, so you can experiment, you can be curious, but
Right.
you don't have to be so intense about it. It needs to go like this or it's wrong. Or
Right.
I've
Right.
screwed up and now I'm doomed,
Yeah. Yeah. Right. That frustration.
Game over.
Oh, yeah, right. I know what you mean. Gosh, I know. How did you come? I know your story, but I would love for you to tell the audience, how did you come to these understandings about yourself in life as of today, Lynda?
Well, the same as you and probably the same as
Yeah.
everyone, Valeria, when you were saying about the hard lessons. I don't think it's impossible to learn in an easy life at all. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's often those really despairing moments that have us almost, it's like with a parent, you don't want to listen to them when you think you've got it
Yeah.
and you're stubbornly going on your own. But as soon as you don't, that's when you're open to some help from them. And
Yeah.
so I think it's those vulnerable moments when we're struggling that we find our courage, hopefully, to be, wow, I need something. And then you go on your inward journey. And for me, as you know, it was a series of whispers that got louder and louder until I was on a verge of a breakdown so severe that I didn't want to live.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't know why. It didn't make sense because wait a second, didn't I just describe myself as joyful and optimistic? Like, how does that work?
Yeah.
But I am those things, but I wasn't living in practice who I was.
Yeah.
I wasn't living my truth. I wasn't living my authentic self. I was allowing someone else to corrupt that, to control it and manipulate it,
Yeah.
who had problems. And there's no blame on this person at
Right.
all.
Right. Right.
It's just the blame actually is on me for listening and thinking that I didn't have a choice. And it took a big, long haul to get myself out of that deep hole of despair and lack of hope that, it didn't just happen overnight. It was such a long process. Even when I knew I had to leave, it took me years before I could leave an
Yeah.
abusive relationship because I just wasn't ready. And again, like I can beat myself up and say, why didn't I know before? But I
Yeah.
didn't.
Mm.
And the thing you can tell yourself is if you knew, you would not continue to do things
Yeah.
that were at odds with your awareness.
Right.
And so you come back to what you said about trusting
Yeah.
and
Mm.
just that compassion with yourself. It's okay. I don't need to be anything except where I am.
Yeah.
It's
Mm.
okay to be who
Mm.
I am. And all of my everything that I don't like about myself. And that's something that took some hard lessons too, of having to face those shadow
Yeah.
aspects. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, you made me think because not being ready. So, because that's one of the topics for today that I selected here, bullying, being abused in relationships or any situation, really, work situation, family situations. Um, so it's a paradox in a way, isn't it, Linda? How do we
Yeah.
accept being treated poorly? How can we kind of use this, excuse in a way? It's okay. I trust. It's okay to be where I am, and clearly see that we need to, to make a decision. We needed to do something, become perhaps stronger, or whatever it is that it takes to move forward or move out of the situation. So that sounds like a paradox, but the one that I truly understand because I have been, and I would say that I am still in a situation, family situation. Hopefully, they're not going to watch this video. That would be helpful. But it's really a tough one. And so, yeah, what would you say to people going through, this situation of bullying and
Mm.
abuse? And yeah,
I don't think I can agree that you accept being treated poorly. It's not about accepting the treatment or the behavior, but it's just about accepting that that's where you are. They're doing their best. And now what are you going to do about it?
mm, mm,
What do you have the strength, the tools, the support to do right now? And
right.
so sometimes it's baby steps and then being patient that, okay, like once you're aware, you can't turn that off. So I think to stay once you're aware, if you're not ready though, as you said, it is
Yeah,
a bit of a paradox, but it's I think it comes down to that. I'm going to keep coming back to your trust word. I love it so
yeah,
much. It
yeah,
gives me so much peace
yeah,
to just trust life even when I don't understand it.
yeah,
And just be knowing that I want to be well, knowing that I want my fellow human beings to be well, knowing that I want to be a part of positive change in the world. So I've set my intention, and now I'm on the lookout. I'm waiting for opportunities. When they come, I'm going to take them because I'm being
Mm,
mindful, because I'm operating with awareness. So I can trust in that.
right.
And then even if I fall off, I can still trust that I can get back up.
Mm,
And maybe I fell off for a reason. Maybe there was something down there in the muck that I needed to
yeah.
find out,
Right.
right? Because there's lots of awareness down there.
Right.
And there's so much opportunity for empathy with other people
Yeah.
when you can experience more and more of life's different array of emotions and thoughts and experiences.
That is so true. What comes to me, so what would be the difference so we can understand this better, I guess, if we can, of accepting a situation, an abusive situation, bullying, and trusting? Can you, yeah, what would be the thought process between somebody who has accepted actually the ill, this poor treatment from others? And I know the trust, I do understand because that's something that I follow myself. I trust whatever
Mhm.
happens. But what about kind of not being aware yet in accepting the situation? What would that look like psychologically, mentally?
Well, I think for people, it is important for people to understand that when people stay, it isn't because uh, they're making a conscious choice. I'm going to stay in this, but it can be so complicated. And I would say often there's a lack of self-esteem there for some
Mm,
reason.
mm, yeah,
And then if you can deconstruct and figure out what that is. So in my life, I had a lot of confidence in some areas, and so it was confusing.
yeah,
Like you talked about these polar energies going on and
yeah,
polar experiences.
yeah,
So that misled me into thinking, well, I'm confident here. So why am I accepting this poor behavior in a relationship?
right.
And it took some exploration. It took some dives into my past through very skilled counseling. And one
Mm,
of the practices that I found really helpful is something called EMDR. And I'm not even sure what that stands for, but it's something about an emotional response. And it's like hypnosis.
yeah,
And what the therapist did was have me go back to the early trauma that was interfering with my relationships, because it was a trauma abuse by a man
right,
when I was a child. And so it was showing up in relationships with a man
right,
because that's where the trauma was. And it wasn't in the other parts of my life because my family life was really positive.
right.
So that's how that works. It's not just one solid thing.
Mm,
And she had me go back to this. And it was so interesting, Valeria, because it was like
yeah,
I was watching
yeah,
from my adult self. I could
right.
see, but I was seeing through the eyes of myself when I was young.
Yeah.
Really powerful experience.
Yeah, yeah.
And I saw my abuser from her eyes as a cartoon wolf.
Mm,
And through different prompts from her, we dealt with that wolf. We kicked his butt.
yeah,
But even that, she was seeing the compassionate side of me because apparently his tail was hanging out this capsule I was going to blow him into outer space in.
yeah,
And I was, oh wait, don't press
yeah,
blow,
yeah,
because I got to tuck his tail in first.
yeah.
And then I did that and got him all, and
Yeah,
then threw him off.
yeah,
So, and as I watched this, the feeling of freedom that we talked about at
yeah,
the beginning was immense. The feeling of safety and like, I'm done with this. He's gone. And even though I knew it was all imagination, and even though I knew I had no idea where this person was, I knew that I was safe. But it was like healing her, who
yeah,
is me, and it's all one.
yeah.
And I think each time one of us heals, we add to the healing energy of the whole planet.
Yeah.
So it's really important work.
Yeah. Wow. What an amazing experience to have. EMDR, that's one of that's a beautiful healing modality that I know of, but I don't have the experience. So in a way, it's just parts of us, right? I mean that they are not in harmony with the other ones. Isn't that interesting to see that we are this set of parts that when they come together, or perhaps when they make peace with one another, then everything becomes clear. Not that challenges will end, but life becomes so much more peaceful. Yeah, and I do understand that.
That's that acceptance part, right? Of like, yeah,
Yeah,
this too shall pass. This is part of life. I'm okay. I've got this. I'm strong.
yeah,
I'm resilient. I'm gonna choose to be curious about, I wonder what I'm gonna learn from this.
right.
I wonder how I'm gonna come out $6 million woman, watch out.
Yeah, right. Well, that's an interesting vision to have, a fun one. Something that caught my attention in your book, The Holding and the Healing Companion Journal, you open
Mhm.
with a quote that reads, "Life's challenges are the sand." I'm sorry, let me go back. So, life's challenges are the sandpaper that smooths out our rough edges to reveal the masterpiece God created us to become. So we have been talking about this entire time.
Yeah,
This
we
is
have.
a quote that really caught my attention. And then, but perhaps what I'm trying to get at is it's what you said before about destination. So the masterpiece. So the masterpiece is that it's not a destination. So how would you describe this masterpiece that God created us to become? What would that? Do you have some visions? I just mentioned that word for that. What would that look like for a human being to become a masterpiece of God?
Well, that's the crazy thing is you already are. It's just about uncovering her.
Right.
So that's why I
Wow.
use that imagery of the sculpture as you reveal away, as life scrapes and, the molding, the massaging, the
Mm,
experiences change it, and then it's revealed. But she's in there just waiting to be expressed.
right.
And I don't think we need to do anything to become that except embrace it and find it and allow it and make space for it. And I say accept as if that's easy, but
Yeah.
it's not easy to do because you're not even supported from day one to understand that that can happen.
Right.
Most people aren't born into a home where their parents are telling them, "You're a masterpiece. You
Yeah.
just become it and supportive and anything you want. And oh, I see you have this gift or this talent or this passion or this desire, and I'm going to support you with it." So many of us don't have those kind of opportunities and experiences of love and support, and so we have to arrive there in a different way. And if you trust life, then you know that your journey is uniquely yours. There's nothing wrong with anything on your journey. And so you
Mm,
just kind of relax a bit into it. When you're relaxed, there's a much greater chance of being open.
yeah.
Then as soon as you constrict, you think of it, you're contracting and
Yeah.
now things can't get in.
Yeah.
And so I think that not being so intense, and this is something I struggle with because I don't know if you can tell, I'm becoming a little more zen as I get older, but I can be so intense. I'm like this striver. I always want it to be amazing and perfect. I want to make the
Yeah.
best food, and my house, I want to be clean, and I want to look good, and I want to sound good, and I want to be good. I want to be smart and funny
Mm.
and have great relationships. Like I want it all.
Yeah.
And then I can feel like, oh, there's not enough time and it's
Yeah.
ticking, and here I am.
Right. Right.
I haven't achieved these dreams and get with
Uh,
it. But then my
mm.
spirit is like, lady, chill out. I just want to have some peace. I want to go and meditate. And when I allow that, my creativity just triples. So if
Mm.
I force myself 8-hour days at my computer, the writing at the end of the day is drivel, is just so uninspired. It's, yeah,
Yeah.
sure, it's 1,000 words or whatever my goal was. But if
Yeah.
I give myself space and actually go sit in silence on my mat for half an hour first and pray and open myself up to the universe, ask for guidance, feel love, feel my body and my breath, then I come and write, and it's like, OMG. It's just
Yeah.
flowing. It's just, and I'm being divinely inspired, I feel like, when I'm writing, because I barely
Yeah.
have to process the thought into the word. It's just
Mm.
trying to keep up with it. It's a really beautiful experience. And even with that
Right.
awareness, I
Yeah.
still fall into plan G instead of
Yeah.
A,
Yeah.
because life happens and
Mm.
you fall into old patterns. You just have to remind yourself.
Mm. Oh my God, so true. I love the answer you gave me. I mean, it was just so spontaneous, that we are already the masterpiece. There's nothing really, nothing to do, nothing to change. We're already that. But for some reason, we became humans, and perhaps we became humans for that reason, right, Linda? To just wake up to that reality, that truth, and live it, experience in the human body.
It's why the body is so important, because that's where you really have your senses. And so that's how you experience the world.
Yeah.
And the world, yeah, lots of people out there are going to tell you it's a place that's going to hell in a handbasket and it's falling apart. But I don't believe that is true at all. The world is evolving and evolving every day into a better, more aware, more expanded, more conscious place.
Mm.
And wherever your time is in it, you're so fortunate, so lucky to be breathing and alive. And that doesn't mean, though, that you can always take full advantage of it, because sometimes you're sick, sometimes you're tired, sometimes
Yeah.
you're hurting, and you feel like, wow, I just wasted a precious day. But you didn't. You lived it.
Mm. Yeah.
And every breath isn't a waste.
Mm. That's a beautiful a prayer. Sounds like a prayer, actually, like of gratitude and appreciation. It really sounds like that. Appreciating this for what it is. So I wonder if even throughout this human experience and all the challenges we go through, we are still that divine presence. We are still that beautiful being, spirit being. Then I guess I'm trying to explore a topic, the topic of authenticity, because in your journal you do mention uncovering your authentic self and then living the authentic self. You have two parts in the journal. So it's another paradox, isn't it? Because we are already that authentic self. There's nothing to change, nothing to do really to become that. But at the same time, it feels like we need to become more loving, more patient, more peaceful, more accepting. You always go back to that idea of acceptance and trust, or yeah, how do you dance with that dance? The paradoxical
Uh,
dance. uh,
I do like your terminology of dance, Valeria. I've heard you use that, and I love it. There's a dance between all of the polarities. And so there's a dance between your authentic self, who you're born, this already masterpiece,
yeah,
and life, and the challenges that maybe eroded that maybe cover it. Maybe a big pail of
yeah,
sand gets thrown on top,
uh,
and now you have to dig your way out. And so
yeah,
even though they're there, and if you don't have the awareness that this can even happen,
yeah.
if you don't believe in something bigger than yourself, then how do you get started?
Mm,
But if you haven't had an exposure, so again, then it comes back to the trust.
yeah.
And if you're ready for something and open, it will happen. And if you aren't, it won't. And it's all okay. We're all
Mm,
okay as we are.
mm.
But at the another polarity of dancing,
Yeah, paradox, right?
I'm okay and I accept who I am. But then I also understand that I have the freedom of my choices. I get to choose. I have free will. And so I can take my life and embrace it with all of my intention, or I can just sit back and
Yeah,
let it happen. And there's nothing good or bad about either choice. But for me, I'm choosing
yeah,
to be active. That's the choice that I resonates for me.
right.
So if you're someone who isn't interested in being active, you probably won't enjoy journaling and
Yeah,
doing all that work, right?
yeah,
You'd
yeah.
rather be doing something else. And there's
Yeah.
maybe you want to go plant your garden instead. That's okay too. The world needs gardens. So, right? If you That's where it comes to, like, listening to your heart calling you, your thoughts calling you, your intuition, God, whatever you want to call it. But That's your authentic self. Listen to her, and she will guide you. She will have the answers if you're patient and you listen. But then that also takes practice to understand. Is that her talking or someone else in my head?
Yeah.
Right? We know
Yeah.
how family members or even teachers, friends from the past can get into our head, and we hear their stories
Sure.
and we get confused. And so I have a good way of measuring
Yeah. I was about
to
to
know the
ask.
difference.
Yeah.
I have a good way. It works well for me. So it's really simple. If I'm struggling to know, okay, I'm having this thought come up again and again. Is this truth? Is this my heart? Or is this ego or non-truth? And all I have to do is ask that question and sit with it and see how I feel. If I'm feeling light afterwards, then I know it's truth. Because then from lightness, all of that openness and all that flow. If it feels heavy, if I feel like it's just a rock and I want to go crawl into bed, it's
Yeah.
probably a bad idea.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
very, I never thought it that way, but that makes sense too. So if it feels like it's there's an expensive feeling, it's an expensive feeling, isn't it, Lynda? That for me, it's kind of something that's open, it's expensive. And another, well, perhaps a more practical, intellectual way that I have learned to understand intuition or the voice of the heart, of the divine intelligence, is, although everything to me is divine, I don't separate, but there's this the choice, as you said, free will of having this experience on earth here, navigating this experience with more peace and love, and some other choices that we might make that might guide us in a different direction, and we might have more challenging, heavier experiences. So, but I'm very aware that it's just one experience, not two. But what comes to me within that paradox is that when whatever decision I'm about to make, or whatever I am about to do in life, it has to be benefit me, this body, this being, and then people around me, my family, and then my community, and then perhaps the world. If it benefits me and everyone else around me, then it makes sense. then that is, to me, that's the voice of the divine. That's how I go by. That's my guide. Does it make sense to you?
It absolutely does. And I think, yes, I can approach it intellectually at times as well, where just thinking about it and
Yeah.
sort of picking it apart and saying, okay, if I do this, how will my mom feel? How will my brother feel?
Yeah. Yeah.
But at times, I also have done things that I know they won't necessarily like,
Yeah.
but because I believe them to be important, part of my truth, and I feel like they're mine. But so it takes so much, and I've been wrong in their mind.
Yeah.
And I guess I trust that sometimes there's fallout, even from a choice that feels in alignment, because we're all in a different space. We have our different perceptions, our different ability to be accepting with life. And I don't know. I feel it's important to be thoughtful of other people. Absolutely. But I do think it starts with you. I do think that you have your life to live. They have their life to live.
Yeah.
Everyone is responsible for their own journey. If we could all just take responsibility for this one person, you were born to live your life, we wouldn't have to pick up other people's pieces. And really, we don't do as good of a job.
Yeah.
They're better equipped to run their life.
That's true.
So when we try to protect other people or do what's right for other people, well, sometimes we get it wrong.
Yeah.
But if we do it for ourselves, we're more likely to be on the right track, because that's the best ear we have is for our own heart.
Yeah.
So we can put these shoulds on. To me, shoulds usually feel heavy.
Yeah.
Even if I put it on myself, Lynda, you should only eat healthy food.
Yeah.
Well, I probably should only eat healthy food. And fortunately, I do enjoy healthy food, but I also like some chocolate now.
Oh my God, I love chocolate. Yeah.
Right? And so then for me, I come back to that balance. And I say, life is also joy. It's not 100% nutrition. And the nutrition experts are always butting heads and arguing over what's nutritious anyway. So I can worm it away into saying, actually, chocolate has some antioxidants
Yeah,
and find a way to enjoy it, right?
giving some healthy excuses for it too. No, actually, chocolate's good for us. Dark chocolate. I guess I go that way. But and going back to the topic of intuition, yeah. And you know what I found out, Lynda, is that the more we do, um, we really come from a place where we are taking care of ourselves. We are practicing self-love. The more it kind of spreads into this beneficial wave into the space and touches everybody in a beautiful way. So I guess it's the same thing again. The more you do for you, it's just coming from that place of authenticity and from love, then everything else it's touched by it. So yeah, in that sense, it's very much true the way you said it too. It's not really doing for them, so you will feel better about it. It's quite the opposite. But it's funny enough, the more you do for you, coming from that place of self-trust, self-love, then it just benefits everyone. It's incredible. I found out by experience. It has been a wonderful journey.
I agree. And it's unfortunate because to me, we have so many stories around self-love as selfish and that
Yeah,
you should always put others first. And people will say things like, oh yeah, like they'll turn themselves inside out for someone else to the point that their own health is failing, but
yeah,
then kind of be proud of, well, that shows I'm a good person.
right.
And I don't agree with that mentality. First of all, why am I not as worthy of love as all the people around me?
Hmm. Yeah,
If I can't love myself, can I love someone else fully?
yeah,
Because without this self being loved, is she operating at her most loving? I don't think so.
right, right. I agree.
I think if I don't love her, she feels that. She feels the pain
Mm,
and hurt and disjointedness of that.
yeah,
And so then I'm, like you said about the ripple, then I'm sending out my pain.
yeah,
I'm showing up in pain
yeah,
of not, I don't love myself. And then wanting you to fix that for me. Well, that's
yeah,
not very kind
right.
to anyone, So it's a tough one because I think there is a lot of story around help someone else.
Yeah,
You should
yes.
always put your children, especially as a mother,
Yeah,
your children have to always come first.
that's a big
Now, of
one.
course,
Yeah,
they do in a lot of situations because they can't put themselves first. And so it is a
yeah.
big responsibility that it's important to follow through with. But it doesn't mean you don't matter at all because they
Mm,
need a mother to be strong, not
yeah,
just for the example, but for what it feels like to live with someone who loves themselves versus someone who doesn't.
yeah. Mm. And then you have that experience of being a mother. That must be, I'm not a mother, so I don't know. But I have heard that, exactly that, that they are always putting themselves last or second, always the children first. And then they are not showing up from a place of love because they're frustrated, they are too tired. Yeah, it takes wisdom, doesn't it, Linda? I have to bring this word or this concept into the conversation. It seems like we move from one place of not knowing, of being ignorance as children, to acquire wisdom, and then in between we make so many mistakes. But then when we are there, that's what it feels like. It seems to me it goes back to that self-trust, self-love. Once you become wiser, that's the way to manifest wisdom, it feels like to me.
That's why wisdom, again, it's like that awareness. You can't
Yeah,
know just because you want to. Wisdom you can't get from a book. You can
yeah,
have more knowledge, learn all kinds of things, but wisdom is something deeper
yeah,
and it necessitates experience. And so you can only be so wise when you're young.
yeah.
I'm not saying you don't have any wisdom, but and some people get older, and let's face it,
Nobody's
don't really have opportunities or intention, or
yeah.
maybe it's self-esteem, who knows. But
Mm,
even
yeah,
then I can say that that's their path. and I can still be loving and kind and respectful
Yeah.
to every human being. I think it's so important.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's another incredible, uh, let's say, a fight in a way to see other people who are not, let's say, who don't see what we see. I love the way you've been trying to explain that in a beautiful way about the focus awareness, about focus awareness attention, isn't it? So it's having it, you're already the divine, you're already authentic and beautiful, but it's being able to see that. So it's that shift of attention, of perspective, kind of coming from that
Mm-hmm.
place instead of other places. So that's an interesting one too, this idea of other people not being kind and not being wise enough. So I wonder if this is a judgment that we are holding, or this is really real. When I mean, some I have had so many conversations around that. Some people say that, people are like parts of the whole, so we come together and we all actually trying to dance the same dance of becoming of being able to see the divine that we are, just be in touch with that, of living that. But then we need those parts to play their roles and kind of wake us, from that dream of not being the divine. So they are actually playing a role, and they are very important.
Absolutely.
Those, right? Isn't that interesting?
Absolutely. It's all about consciousness, right?
Yeah.
And some parts of the human experience aren't conscious, but it's just in your perspective, as you've said,
Mm,
Valeria, of instead
yeah.
of looking at that person with a judgment of now they don't get it, so I'm not going to
Yeah.
talk to them,
Right.
and being like, oh, here's an opportunity for conversation. Maybe I can spark a little bit of interest. This is what
Right.
you and I are trying to do with our
Mm,
platforms in the world. We are trying to grow the consciousness. We are trying to give people opportunities for learning, for awareness, for their wisdom to grow, for their knowledge bank, for their tools. And so that and then they tell someone else and they tell someone else, and that's how it grows.
right.
So even though I want to be a writer because I love writing, it
Yeah.
lights me up and it's one of my favorite things to do. So to have that as your job, how great. But I also want to increase exposure on that more uh, selfless level of sharing the
Yeah.
love,
Yeah.
sharing my learning. And I just feel like we all have different things that resonate with us. And so someone else might not resonate with what I have to offer. That's okay. There's someone else for them. But someone might. And I tell you, Valeria, every time even one person says to me, something I've shared with them has made a difference in their life, however
Right.
small,
Right.
it's the best feeling. As you know, you've touched so many
Mm,
people with what you do.
mm,
And that's what fuels us to go on,
right.
right?
I love that perspective. Yeah, we can be stuck on judgment, or we can just shed some light. We can just actually kind of see that and go even deeper into our own selves, and just be more who we are. Yeah, that's the practice, really, isn't it, Linda? Just to be more who we already are, which divine intelligence, whole, beautiful, the God self, the authentic self. I know the spirit. I mean, just gets me to. It puts a smile on my face. I have to tell you, because it is true, and I cannot believe that there are so many other souls here that don't yet see that. But yeah, you're right. We are just being who we are. Who we are. That's what it is. So thank you for being you again. So we
Oh,
almost
thank
at
you,
the
Valeria.
Thank you. So we're almost at the end. I do have a question for you that I usually ask everyone at the end. If there's one message you wish everyone who listened, who watched this video to take with them for the rest of their lives, what would that message be?
Oh, it's hard to sum up into one succinct message, but I would say anyone watching this, if they could walk away with a feeling of curiosity about how they can enrich their life and their experience of meaning, and how they might go about exploring that through that beginning point of curiosity, and then following through with what lights them up, knowing that it's possible, that maybe something is resonating with them and they are now inclined to take some action, to maybe switch things up, hurl themselves out of their comfort zone, make a new connection, listen to someone else's story, and find that kernel of wisdom and self-awareness that lives in them. Uncover your masterpiece, everybody. Let it
Yeah,
go.
right. It's starting with curiosity. I love that word. Yeah, being curious, right? It sounds very childlike, very innocent. That's a beautiful way of ending the conversation today, because I do believe that's where it comes from. That's one of the qualities of the authentic self, of the divine self. It's very curious, it's very spontaneous, it's open. It's like a child. It's really like a child. Not childish, but childlike, innocent.
That innocence,
Yes, right,
right?
right. Thank you so much, Lynda, again, for your presence here today, for sharing this moment in life, not in time, in life, and for being you again. Thank you. I have great, great love for you. And we have been in communication for a while. All these people that I'm in touch with, the guests that I have been connecting with, they're just so close to my heart. It's my family, my true family. So thank you.
You can tell, you can feel it. And I hope that my takeaway is I really want to stay in connection with you and continue to benefit from what you're doing and the relationship and your skill set and your platforms.
Thank you. Yeah.
I feel so fortunate that we found each other.
I know. Yeah, that's how it works, right? Life doing its work. And it's fun. It's that collaboration work, just doing what we are here to do. It feels so natural. It really, really does. So before we say goodbye today, where can we find more information about you, your books, your services, and future projects, Lynda?
All right. Well, I'm just going to do a little, because I just picked these up recently. I do have my third book. I think you just had an advanced copy, but this is the first hard copy.
Yes.
And so, thank you. Oh, I'm so
I know it's beautiful. I saw it online, but not like that.
There's nothing like holding the real book in your hand. Yeah. So it's my third. My fourth book is actually at the editor's right now, but I have all my work is available online on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Chapters Indigo. Some bookstores, you can get a hard copy. And the best place is to go to my website, which is www.lindafayschmidt.com. And you can order my books there. You can read my musings. I write a fresh musings every month. And I've got news and reviews on there. I've got interviews with you, all kinds of fun stuff. So that's the best way to get a hold of me and stay in touch. You can email me. I love hearing from people. And I respond personally because I don't have a big, huge following yet. Maybe someday it'll be someone, but right now it's me.
Yeah.
And I'm also I'm on YouTube, and I'm on social media, LinkedIn and Facebook.
Wonderful. So I'll have those links on your interview profile too, Lynda, with the bio and everything. That will be there as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and we'll talk soon. Thank you again. Take good care of yourself for today. Bye for now, Lynda.
You too, my friend. Stay well.
Yeah.